couple new people who came, I hope, and thanks to the candidates for coming. I know they just came from another debate, so it's a really busy time for everybody, for you, for the voters, for the reporters, for the candidates, so we're going to try to really get to moving along quickly. So let's just go over some of the, how we're going to do the format, okay? So you'll each get a minute for an opening statement, and you'll each get questions from the panelists. You'll have 3 minutes to answer, and if you want, we'll give you a 1 minute warning. Do you want that, or just time when your time is up? I don't know. Okay? And then, I'm not getting a lot of questions from the audience, so if you haven't yet, we really need you to submit some questions for these candidates. We're going to take a couple from the audience, and you know it's late and we're running out of time, so we have index cards over there. Come and then we'll give them to the panelists.
Can you guys find a seat over there? We need everybody to stand and find a seat. Because people are standing, they're talking, and we don't want that. We want you to sit, all right?
And thanks again to Councilman Ulrich and Senator Addabbo for taking the time to come here. They just came from another debate forum in Howard Beach. So let's just get started. Which of you wants to go first? Whoever goes first for opening, then the next person will have the first to go for closing. So, okay, so Senator Addabbo, your 1 minute opening statement.
Lisa, I want to thank you and of course the panel here for their time of holding all of those of Juniper Park Civic. Thank you very much for hosting. And for those of you who stayed up and watched the late show here tonight, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. It's been a privilege and an honor to be your state senator over the past 4 years and working with the Civic over the past 4 years. You know, again, when I went into the Senate back in 2009, I went into all with wide open eyes. I was faced with the worst fiscal situation the state has ever known back in 2009, and we worked hard to protect the essential services, making historic budget spending cuts to the tune of $6 billion. We're facing a $17 billion deficit. We protected the essential services, and we turned the corner, and going forward, and certainly under Governor Cuomo over the past 2 years, and I'm proud to have the governor's endorsement, we've had 2 on-time budgets with no tax increases, 2 on-time budgets that restored EPIC for $34 million, restored educational funding to the highest levels. That minute goes quick. Thank you very much, everybody.
Councilman Ulrich.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. I want to thank you, the Daily News, and of course, the Juniper Park Civic Association, the largest, most influential civic association in probably the whole city of New York. I would be honored to represent you in the state Council. My name is Eric Ulrich. I'm a member of the City Council. I was elected in 2009. I was elected in 2009, ironically, to succeed Joe Addabbo in the City Council, and he became a state senator. And here we are, 3.5 years later, sharing the same stage here. Did you ever think this moment would ever come?
Never.
I'm very proud of my work in the City Council. I've helped pass 4 consecutive balanced budgets, no tax increases, making sure that we do things in a fiscally responsible way, that when we make cuts to city agencies, we don't impact in a negative way the most vulnerable populations. Of course, I'm talking about our seniors and our children. This election, though, is not about the past or not about what you've done. It's about the future and what you plan to do. And we'll talk about that. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Okay, so let's get started. Again, you'll each have 3 minutes to answer a question from the panelists. There will be a chance for a 1 minute rebuttal. And Sam, we'll start with you. The quick reporters are fumbling with the electronics.
Okay. We'll address this question to Mr. Addabbo. At a recent candidates night forum in Glendale, 2 candidates debated discretionary funding and member items. Mr. Ulrich criticized Mr. Addabbo for being unable to get discretionary funding for a number of local nonprofits. Mr. Addabbo, in turn, you claim that those applications were vetoed by the governor, with what you said was the reason. Is there something that you would propose, Mr. Addabbo, that could strike a balance between funding these nonprofits and protecting against misuse and abuse of member items?
Thanks, Sam. I believe in discretionary money. I believe the money that goes to the local groups, such as this one here and other groups, Midville Dodgers and so forth, that's good money being spent in our community. Unfortunately, this is where the governor and I differ. He doesn't believe that any elected official should be attached to money into the district. It's probably because too many of our elected officials misuse the money. So the few ruin it for the many. And those that you see getting arrested these days are misusing the discretionary money because they lost their focus. The focus is no longer that of the people, it's of themselves. How can they try and get this money into their pocket, not to, obviously, the services of the community. So the governor said no more new money to elected officials in the community. And I said to him personally this, while I agree with you that, we shouldn't have electeds attached to the process, certainly this money is needed in the community. So I have a plan, and I propose it to the governor. It's to have the nonprofits, the senior centers, the veterans groups, the social services, have them apply directly to the government agency in the state budget and get their money. That's what's most important. The money that serves the public. This taxpayer dollars. It should be gone back to the community for the taxpayers to benefit from. So a senior center can go back to the Department of Aging, submit paperwork, and get their $3,000 or $5,000. The Midville Dodgers can go and get their money. It's obviously for their season. This is my plan to propose to the governor. He's considering it. Money still sits there in our budget, discretionary money, roughly to the tune of $83 million. And I'm hopeful when we go back to work, because they're not going to release anything during the election year, we know that. After the election, hopefully we can get that out. One point though, there is no new money. Any monies that have been released under any senator's name, Democrat or Republican, is old money. When I was given the opportunity in 2009 to forward Senator Maltese's money, I proudly did so. Because Senator Maltese put the money out there in the community, it was the right thing to do. I didn't shift the money around, I honored Senator Maltese's request. Took me a year and a half to get his old money out. It takes that long, that's the Senate, that's the state process. So the idea here is there is no new money. So any money being released, and it's still ongoing, is old money. But my plan is currently being considered by the governor, and hopefully we can get that money released for the businesses and for the organizations in the community, for the people. Thank you.
Senator, just to clarify, would you suggest that those nonprofits and civic groups apply for that funding to their relevant department, or are you suggesting some sort of clearinghouse for those applications?
I have proposed to the actual department. So seniors go to the aging. Obviously, there's other departments within the budget that they can do that. And these groups have to be vetted, which means they have to have background checks to make sure that the money they are applying for is used properly. So no impropriety, no scandals, no scams, but that the money is actually going to the use intended.
Councilman Ulrich.
Part of the job of the elected officials is to fight for as much money to bring back to your district as humanly possible. That is the job of your congressman, of your state senator, of your council representative, of your assembly person, is to go to the budget and try to secure as much of the taxpayers' money to reinvest back into the community. When you don't do that, and when you fail to bring back money to the community, there's something wrong with the picture. Now, the truth be told, there is money that has been released this year. Senator Addabbo says money is frozen. That's true. The governor vetoed some of that money in April. But in June, there were millions of dollars that were appropriated to districts all around the state, and not one group from this district was the recipient of that money. And you want to talk about old money? Some of the old money that you appropriated in 2009, which I was dismayed to find, was $40,000 for Assemblyman Vito Lopez's senior center, which is now under investigation. That's a matter of public record, and that's a time. And I've got a big problem with that when you come here and tell these groups there's no money for them, but there's money for him.
The Vito Lopez money is part of the assembly discretionary money, and it's part of the budget. Certainly, I don't propose to support Vito Lopez in anything that he does. That's number one.
Should he resign?
Should he resign?
Should he resign from the Senate?
I have a way of dealing with him, and I'll let you know now. Secondly, there is no new money. And certainly, I know Bob Holden knows, Midville Dodgers, other groups within Middle Village Senior Center, Rabbi Levy's group, they haven't allocated money, or at least allocated money in the budget under my name. That money is frozen. There is no new money. Until the governor decides a way to allocate it, he's of the belief that too many elected officials misuse it, so he's going to hold on till he figures out the situation. I gave him a plan. Hopefully he listens to me.
Should he resign?
I'm sorry?
I don't know who.
It's okay, you can, one minute rebuttal, and then we gotta move on.
Look, it's a simple question.
But you can say that, is the question about the funding, or is it about Vito Lopez resigning? You can say that to the end when you get to ask him your own question.
I'll reserve my time.
Okay, because this is about the funding.
That's fine, we can move on.
Okay. Sam has a follow-up.
Very, very quickly, Mr. Ulrich, do you agree with the governor's decision to veto those discretionary items?
I don't know why the governor vetoed some of those groups. The question that I have is why did he veto some of them and not all of them? Because he allowed a lot of money to go through the budget and to go through groups, but not all of them. So I was very disappointed that the Midville Dodgers didn't get money, or that the American Legion didn't get money, or that the Sacred Heart, or the Golden Age clubs here at St. Margaret's, for instance, didn't get money. But that doesn't change the fact that is your responsibility as an elected official to come back to your district and explain to these people why he didn't give you the money. You weren't misappropriating any of the money. You weren't doing anything wrong. Why did the governor punish you?
I think you have to, and you don't
I'll let you do 30 seconds, I'll let you do a 1 minute rebuttal, and then we'll move on.
1 minute. You don't understand the process. It's very simple.
I do understand. I've been in office for 4 years. I understand the budget. You get the money or you don't.
No.
That's the process. Show me
You
the
don't
money.
understand the process at the state level. Don't.
I know.
I have said it, and I think I've been very clear. The governor is trying to clean up Albany. He doesn't want elected officials' names attached to the discretionary.
Why is he holding you accountable, not others?
No. There is no new money and no.
There is money in the budget, and I showed it to you.
Old money, and it's old money. How many times I have to say this? You get it. It's old money. You get the point. You know.
Okay, this is another money question, so we get to keep talking about this. I guess I'll start with Councilman Ulrich. So, you've received money from your campaign. I guess we have a mayor who donates heavily to the state Senate Republicans, who in turn infused your campaign with cash. I'm wondering if you could describe a time when you disagreed with them, or just sort of show that you're independent of
I'll tell you, I disagreed with him when he gave $10,000 of his money to Joe Addabbo after he flip-flopped on gay marriage. You want to talk about money that the mayor gives the campaign? He gave Joe Addabbo $10,000 after he flip-flopped on same-sex. And that has nothing to do with your position on same-sex marriage. But you want to talk about the money infused, the mayor's money being infused in political campaigns? He gave Joe Addabbo a direct contribution of $10,000. I didn't get a dime from Mayor Bloomberg. Now, I disagree with the mayor on many issues. Number one, the soda ban. I thought it was ridiculous. Nanny state nonsense trying to control the lives of New Yorkers. I'm not going to pretend to tell parents how they ought to raise their children. The smoking ban at the beaches and the parks. I represent the Rockaways. Now, there is no scientific evidence to suggest that secondhand smoke is a health risk factor when somebody's standing 50 feet away from you in open space, in open air, or trying to have a cigarette or a cigar on the boardwalk. I think that the mayor is trying to control people's personal lives, and I've let him know. The third time I disagreed with him, when he did an abysmal job plowing the streets of Queens after the blizzard of the day.
I guess you wouldn't have any direct contact with them, but you disagree with
The
them.
Senate Republicans, I disagree with them on the minimum wage issue, and I've detailed that for the local papers.
Could you detail that for the people here, please?
The Senate Republicans have stalled the minimum wage legislation. I said that it ought to be considered, it ought to be let out of the committee, debated, and put to a vote on the floor. I think that any serious issue like that should be put on the floor, debated by people in both parties, and then either given an up and down vote or it passes or it doesn't pass. The Senate Republicans have blocked legislation to raise the minimum wage, and I think that's a problem for a lot of people, and it's a problem for me.
Oh, sorry, is it rebuttal?
Well, no, and then now Senator Addabbo gets to answer the question or your...
So, Senator, I want to ask you about your campaign fund. Genting, the company that's running the Racino, they spent millions in lobbying, and they've also given money to your campaign. So I'm wondering if you could detail, are there times you disagree with them?
Sure. They have given me money after I come out beforehand supporting with the work that they're doing and obviously the jobs that are being created there, and then they give me the contribution. So the time frame is very important here. But certainly I always am cognizant of the fact that we need to hire more people in results role for the local area. When these numbers get thrown out that they've only hired 60% or 70%, well, that's 1,000 more jobs than we never had before. But as an elected official, you know what I tell them? I want 90% out of my district. I want 99%. I want all the people out of my district to get jobs there. That's my job, to find jobs for my people. So there are times when we have these discussions with results rolled about, are they doing the right thing with public safety? Making sure they hire more security so the people who do go there are safe. Making sure that they hire people from the neighborhood. Making sure they do the right thing by infrastructure and traffic concerns. I meet with them monthly, and it's not just a cozy social arrangement. It's a real meeting about real issues that matter to our people. So the idea here is, we're going to hold their feet to the fire when it comes to jobs. We are going to hold their feet to the fire when it comes to them giving the 1% to the community and have them define community to mean more than what's just around Resorts World. The bottom line is, we have a long way to go with Resorts World. We have a long way to go with the jobs there and the revenue that's being generated there for the benefit of our people. I work for people. I don't work for Resorts World. I don't work for any of my donors. My people come first. People before politics. That's always been my principle. So my people first. And that's how it will always be for me.
Do you support expanding casino gambling in New York?
Yes,
would you like to see it in your district?
Yes, we do. The reason being, we're heading in that direction anyway, full game. We lose upwards of $6 billion a year to Jersey, Pennsylvania, Connecticut. We will have the opportunity of getting that money back should we go to full gaming, and of course the increased amount of jobs. But we have another hurdle to do, two actually. One, state legislature, hopefully, if I return to January, we vote on it again, full gaming in New York State. But the most critical, important part of this process is the people's vote. Everyone here, registered voters, get to vote on whether you think we should have full gaming in New York State. To me, that's the most critical process, the people's voice. So yes, I support it, but certainly the people can have their vote next year.
Okay, Ozzy, you'll ask the next question.
Right. There's a couple of pieces of legislation that the governor has indicated he wants the legislature to pass if they are even to consider a pay raise for legislators. So I'm going to ask you parts of this, and if you can just tell me if you support it or not. The legislation the governor is tying to pay raises, so far he's indicated a raise in the minimum wage and decriminalization of small amounts of marijuana if they're possessed in public as part of the stop and frisk issue that he was trying to resolve. He's indicated that if those two pieces of legislation pass, he's willing to consider a pay raise for lawmakers. So I want to know if A, you would vote for a pay raise or accept a pay raise if you were there, and then those other components, the decriminalization of marijuana and the raise in minimum wage.
Councilman Eric first.
I do not support the decriminalization of marijuana or any dangerous drug in our country. It's a gateway drug. I do not want any of our young people falling susceptible to drug abuse or any substance abuse, so I do not support that. As far as legislative pay raises go, I don't think it should be up to the governor. I don't think it should be up to the Senate, the Assembly. We work for the taxpayers. We work for the voters. If you want to raise, put it on the ballot. If they think you're doing a good job, let them decide, not the politicians. And if the governor really wants to clean up Albany, maybe he'll put into place term limits for state elected officials, because some of these people have been out there way too long.
Sorry, and the minimum wage issue?
I indicated before that I would support that. But not as a tie to get a raise for any politician. That should be up to the people.
Senator?
the minimum wage bill, there was a bill in the Senate to raise the minimum wage, and I supported it. Unfortunately, we never got the chance to vote on it because 300 Democratic bills were moved from their respective committees to the Rules Committee to die. So minimum wage, unfortunately, never made it to the floor, but I would have supported it. I support stop and frisk. I think it's a great crime tool. I think the police need and the schools to make sure they do a great job out there. Compliments to the 104 precinct, they do a great job. So I support stop and frisk. No, I don't support the decriminalization of marijuana. I think if you give an inch, you take a yard, it's just again opening the door. Ladies and gentlemen, there's an issue out there for our police force. We cannot dilute the stop and frisk or other laws. It's going to add a burden to the police force. We constantly fight for more police on our street, giving them the resources they need so our community and our people are safe. So we have to be very careful on what laws we look to pass, because it does have a ripple effect upon our police force. So, and as far as the pay raise, no, I am not supportive of a pay raise. There is no bill for a pay raise. I would not vote for a pay raise. I voted for a pay raise once in the city council, and I will never do it again. It's not the right thing to do. Thank you. It's not the right thing to do. The elected officials should not have to increase their own pay. The bottom line is, it should not be tied to any piece of legislation.
Got it.
So, no.
And just a quick follow-up for the councilman. You said there were some legislators who've been in Albany for too long. I was wondering if you can identify some of them by name, preferably at least one Republican, and I'm assuming there's a number of Democrats.
That's fine. I mean, some of them are already in jail, so I don't have to name them. The ones that are up there for too long, some of them are up there in jail. I'd say Vito Lopez has been there too long. He's gotten way too cushy, way too comfortable, and it's not enough that he gave up his hat as a Democratic county sheriff. He ought to resign in disgrace because he disgraced himself and his constituents and his office and give up his seat in the assembly. He is not fit to hold public office.
Is there a Republican you can identify that's been in Albany for too long? Are there any Republicans that you can ID?
One just retired Senator Owen Johnson, and I give him a lot of credit. He got to an age where he was very frail and ill, and he decided that it was time to pack it in and let his constituents elect somebody else. He was somebody that was too long and stepped aside, and I commend him for that.
And anybody serving currently?
Most of these guys are upstate or in Long Island. I have very few dealings. You asked me for a Republican, so I have a hard time picking one outside of 5 boroughs other than Owen Johnson.
We're keeping an eye on the time, so we're gonna keep moving. Now we're taking questions from the audience. You'll each have 2 minutes to answer with a 1-minute rebuttal, and we're gonna start with Sam, because we've received several questions on this topic.
As was mentioned, we received several questions on the topic of idling freight trains in Middle Village. Is there any legislation at the state level that can be enacted to protect the neighborhood from these idling rail cars?
The issue of the rail cars predominantly is a federal issue. It is not within the jurisdiction of the state. That doesn't mean to say I've shied away from the issue at all. And it's an issue that me and my staff and I have really worked on. I have introduced legislation that has mainly to do with the coverings on the railroad, on the cars. But the actual issue of the noise, and the actual issue of the odor and the rumbling of the train, that is an issue I will continue to work on. In just my short period of time, this is an issue that was around long before I was around. But in this short period of time, I've worked with the EPA, DEC, DEP, Congressman, I know Congressman Turner was on the issue, Senator Schumer, Senator Gillibrand, or our local elected officials, the Sierra Club, League of Conservation Voters, other attorneys. I've had meetings in my office. We did rallies in front of the Waste Management. We did rallies in the streets. I work with cures. You know, the bottom line is this. We are going to include everybody under the sun on this issue until it's resolved. 1 minute. We're going to work at resolving this issue. I'm not shying away from this issue. I am not. I sat in that kitchen, somebody's home at 5 in the morning. I heard the rumbling. I smelled the odors. I smelled it during one of the Juniper Park concerts in the summertime. I know the issue. We are going to continue to work on it. This is not going away, though. It's not. The railroad ain't going away. And because we made a stink up in Suffolk County, we only merely delayed the vote, but they approved to even increase the rail. We have a daunting task in front of us, but I'm not shying away from it. I know they're frustrated residents about the elected officials. Regardless of how they feel, I may be working on it. Despite their opinion, I'm going to still work on it. Because I'm not shying away from it. I'm fighting for them on this issue.
Okay, time. Councilman Ulrich?
Whatever you have been doing obviously isn't working. Okay, so I've got an idea. What the state has in their purview, what the state can do, what a state senator should have done, is introduce legislation that would ban commercial freight from operating within 50 or 100 feet of residential properties, and then you'll see how fast you get waste management to the table to start dealing with the toxic fumes and noise.
Rebuttal?
There you go again, not knowing the process. Know the jurisdiction of the state senate and of the state legislature. Interstate commerce cannot be controlled by state legislation, number one. Number two, by working with the local elected officials, we did effectuate some change. Know the story. Again, there you go, only telling half truth. Know the whole story. By working with the elected officials, we did move the rail, the cars, about 600 feet more to the cemetery or more. It helped for a couple of weeks, maybe a month or so, and it got worse again. But we did effectuate some change. Why? Because we worked hard and worked together as a community. We have more work to do, and I look forward to working with everyone.
So how many more years in office? How many more years in office do we need to finally resolve this issue?
If it was up to me, it would be tomorrow I'd stop that rail. It's not up to me. It's going to take a lot of hard work. I'm prepared.
Joe?
This is a state issue that comes up a lot. I was wondering if you could describe your position on hydrofracking, and specifically, there's been a lot of talk about a waterless fracking technique. Have you explored that, and would you support that? We can start with you, Councilman Ulrich.
Thank you very much. This is an issue where me and the senator obviously disagree. Joe Addabbo would like people to believe that hydrofracking would poison New York City's drinking water. If that were to be true, and that were the case, I would be standing shoulder to shoulder with him, denouncing it and saying that we cannot do it. However, if it can be proven by scientists and experts on the issue, not environmental, left-wing social engineering groups, not a bunch of lobbyists up in Albany who don't want to see it happen, if we can create good-paying jobs in New York, get ourselves off our dependence on foreign oil and get some energy independence through natural gas and not contaminate our drinking water and do it safely, then I support it because it will create jobs in New York.
If the governor allows hydrofracking in certain southern tier counties that aren't in
The southern tier on the border of Pennsylvania, where it's not near the Kroger Reservoir, not near a water table, it can be done deep down in the soil without impacting water quality. Why are we outsourcing jobs to Pennsylvania? You're creating jobs in other states. They're doing it in Pennsylvania, and in New York, we won't allow them to do hydrofracking here. It's ridiculous. We have 9.1% unemployment.
And you do support it?
Yes, of course I support jobs. And I support energy independence, and if it can be done safely in that region, I support it.
And are you familiar with the waterless fracking technique? Is that something you're considering?
I couldn't hear, I'm sorry.
There's a technique that doesn't have water involved that uses fracking. I believe it uses petroleum gas that's concentrated. Is that something that you looked into?
I'm not an expert on it. I'll let the experts decide the safest way to do it, and they can come up with it. By the way, President Obama is not against hydrofracking. So somebody in your own party has said we need to get ourselves off foreign oil and onto energy independence. So to make this out to be like the big bad Republican wants to poison your drinking water is ridiculous.
Senator? Back to the original question.
Where do I start? Eric, you sound a lot different than you did at the debate in Glendale. Because in Glendale, you specifically said you reform fracking because it creates jobs upstate and it'll increase the economic depression upstate New York.
And I just added energy independence.
Okay, so number one, ladies and gentlemen, it creates zero jobs for us in down here. Zero. The drilling is done 300 miles away. The oil companies, because it's a technical drilling process, bring their own employees. They don't hire local people upstate New York. They bring their own employees. It is technical, we know it's technical because there was fatalities in Pennsylvania during the same process. If it was an economic boost upstate for the deli or for the local hotel, I cannot see supporting something that jeopardizes our drinking water, and it does. I am looking to protect the drinking water of our families and our stores along Metropolitan Avenue and Elgin Avenue. I'm looking to protect the water. There is a risk here. And you gotta understand one thing, DEC is our only state agency that regulates hydrofracking, the only one. And yet its Commissioner Martin said, they're not ready to regulate hydrofracking. They need 200 extra employees to handle it, and they don't have it, nor do they have the money to hire. So our only agency who's going to regulate it can't handle it. And you want to support it? It doesn't have jobs for us. There is no economic boost, and it is a danger to our water. There are 750 chemicals: formaldehyde, ammonia, sulfate, hydroxide, 7 to 8% of which stay in our soil. The bottom line is, ladies and gentlemen, don't be fooled. This can be a risk. There's a reason why the governor has not issued a permit yet. Okay? And there are other alternatives. There are collagen, another fluid, but a safer fluid. Collagen is now being looked at to get the natural gas out. And a gel where you can control it more than the fluid of chemicals. There are alternatives. There are alternatives. So, yeah, I'm all for drilling. Let's get the natural gas out. But let's make sure, 100% sure we're doing it safe.
He just said that you can drill in an area where it's not really water table.
So would you support it? It's called liquid petroleum gas fracking. Is that something you would consider supporting that?
There are alternatives to hydrofracking. I'm against the issue of hydrofracking and the chemicals, the toxins, and basically the carcinogens that are the toxins in our soil. So there are other alternatives. The oil companies, though, say the other alternatives are more expensive. I'm sorry, instead of making $10 billion a year, they only make $9 billion a year. I'm sorry. But the bottom line is we've got to protect our water.
Okay, we've gotten a couple of questions, and I know you guys have brought it up already, about same-sex marriage. So I was wondering if I can ask the audience to hold your thoughts and comments for a moment. The governor helped pass the bill through the legislature in part because of your vote on that issue. And I was wondering if you can explain a little bit about your evolution on that issue. And then secondly, if you can also talk about the impact that law has had now that it's a year old.
And that question's for both candidates, correct?
If we could start with the senator first.
It was no revolution at all. When approached with an issue, I'm a leader who listens to the people. When I took an oath to be a state senator, it was to represent people. Not my interests, but the interests of my people. So in 2009, I believe in 2009, when we approached with the bill, and it failed, and I voted no. At that time, 700 people or so wanted me to vote no, and I voted no. In 2011, I told everybody, I am but one person. I'm a Catholic, a practicing Catholic. Gay marriage wasn't something I was brought up to believe in, to acknowledge, but I'm an elected official. I'm not a religious leader, I'm a people leader. And I represent 350,000 people, all sorts of people, all kinds of religions. 7,974 people, I'll never forget the number, waiting on this issue for me in my office. 74% wanted me to vote yes. I voted yes, it was the hardest thing I ever had to do. I can't choose between the easy votes and the hard votes. I make tough decisions. Those decisions I think that are best for my people. Those who were not in favor of gay marriage, they were heard too, because there's a lot of religious protections in the bill. And here we are a year later, and we find that to Catholics, to Muslims, to Jewish faith, marriage still in their eyes is man and woman. In the eyes of the state, it's a different definition. It affords, same-sex couples 1,000 extra rights. It's a year later. We have not seen any change in our lives from the bill. We still have serious issues, ladies and gentlemen, and I work on all of them. Gay marriage, the jobless rate, high cost of health care, potholes, streetlights. It's a myriad of problems that we have out there. They're tough problems out there. People hurt out there. So I'm not going to be held back by one bill. I refuse to. This bill's a year old, our lives haven't changed, but I need to address the serious issues, day-to-day issues that my people have today, and that's what I choose to do. Thank you.
You will follow up
Actually, if we can go to the councilman, if you can state how you would have voted on that bill if you were there at the time, and then the second part to it, in addition to the impact you've seen on that bill, would you work in any way to bring the bill up for a repeal?
Right, okay, very valid question. First of all, let's clarify something. Gay marriage and potholes are not equivalent, okay? That's number one. If I were in the state senate, I would have voted no, because I also am a Roman Catholic, and I was raised to believe that marriage is between a man and a woman, and that is my personal belief. You may disagree, and that's fine. Now, when we make decisions as elected officials, we do not stick our finger in the air to see which way the wind is blowing, that this year we vote one way, and 2 years later we vote another. When you're an elected official, and you have to take tough stands on issues, no matter how tough or heart-wrenching they may be, you have to go with your gut. You have to vote your values. And you know when you worry about the consequences? At the ballot box. You're not supposed to worry about that on any other day other than election day. You stand on your record, you vote for what you believe in, and that's it. You don't flip-flop one way, the other way. 2 years, I sent out postcards, I got 5,000 back. You have 327,000 constituents. And you base the decision on what 7,000 people return back to your office?
Okay.
If I can just follow up, will you work?
The bill is not coming up for repeal.
Would you work to make that happen then?
No, I would not.
Okay.
It's not coming up for repeal, and that's, we got other
Okay,
problems.
and if you could talk about the impact the bill has had, it's a year old. Is there any impact that you've seen that bill have?
I think that for those couples who chose to get married, it has had a positive impact on their lives and the lives of their families. For them. That is the only impact that I can tell so far.
All right. Two last points on marriage. My vote wasn't the deciding vote. Dean Skills allowed the bill, the Republican leader, who allowed the bill to get on the floor. Dean Skills, the Republican majority leader, allowed that bill to get to the floor. He allowed 4 Republican senators to vote for it. Even if I did vote no, it still passes. So I'm not the deciding vote, and you have marriage equality because of Dean Skills and the 4 Republicans. And I just want to be in full disclosure, and I know my opponent's going to agree. Well, before I voted yes in the state senate for marriage equality, there was a bill in the city council in 2010. It was Intro 260 that said if you're a same-sex couple, you can go to another state, get married, come back to New York, and we'll recognize it. And my opponent voted for it. So before I voted yes, my opponent voted for a very similar bill within the jurisdiction of the city council.
So, Ozzy, I think you're familiar with this legislation. You know, and every reporter knows, it was not an endorsement of gay marriage. It was a freedom of information law that basically said the city clerk has to provide on his website, similar to the way he provides information on where guns are legal, where guns are not legal, and the laws in those states, where marriage is legal between a man and a woman, and where same-sex marriage is legal. That's all it was. It wasn't a resolution calling on the state senate to pass gay marriage. It wasn't an endorsement of gay marriage. It was a freedom of information law, and I voted yes.
Okay.
It's not the same.
Just a reminder to the audience, I know that certain issues get a lot of people very worked up, but I think everybody's trying to, we did warn you early on that people will be asked to leave if there's calling out and yelling, and I think the candidates are trying hard to be respectful of each other, and let's all try to follow that. I would like to follow up on this briefly, and then we'll move on to other questions. How do you feel about this being an issue to both of you that keeps coming up in this campaign? Because I know that the councilman was the subject in his primary of what some people said was some pretty homophobic literature. Vicious literature, as some described it, for criticizing you for having gay couples as friends, and many other things that you might want to describe. But it was, some people thought that your Republican primary opponent, really went after you in an unfair way. So knowing that and knowing your personal relationships with people who have, been married, do you think that this is a valid issue? Do you think this is something that is...
It's not a valid issue because it's never coming up for a vote again. And as you indicated, the attacks on me in the primary, similar to the one that my opponent just tried to lunge my way, was a distortion of the truth. It was terrible that they attacked members of my staff. It was terrible that they attacked other elected officials who happened to be gay. I'm a Roman Catholic. I believe that we're all God's children. We are all made in His image and likeness. It's not my job to judge people for how they choose to live their personal lives. But as far as this being an issue in the campaign, I haven't sent one piece of mail out criticizing Joe Addabbo for voting for gay marriage because I said it's not the most important issue in this race. If you agree with him, then you're going to vote for him. If you disagree with him on gay marriage, then you already know that, and you're probably not going to vote for him anyway.
Senator, do you believe that that's the way things have been, or do you feel like this has been used against you in this campaign?
I have been, and we have participated in roughly 6 debates and candidate sites roughly. This is the first time it's come up. It is not an issue. It's not. As I said, there are plenty of other important issues that affect you on a daily basis. The gay marriage vote was one vote of 3,000 bills I voted for. Some of those other bills, like the budget, that provide services and trickles down to the city in terms of public safety, education, sanitation, the police force, your fire department, your schools, your healthcare. These are the direct issues that affect your daily life. These are the issues I deal with on a daily basis. Those that affect you on a daily basis in your daily life, the critical issues. That's what we're judged on. Not this bill that was voted on a year ago that has really very little meaning to most people.
Okay. So again, I really would ask the audience, everybody keeps talking about how they're Italian and Roman Catholic, and so am I, so I will pick you up and throw you out of your place if you act up too much, so I would just really ask everybody to be respectful. So let's move on. This is a question for the senator, but we would like the councilman to address it as well. You've been in office for 4 years. What have you accomplished for Middle Village and Mascot? And then the councilman will be able to ask, what would you like to, if you're elected, what would you focus on for this community? So how have you focused on for this community, what would you? And then for the councilman, what would you focus on in the future?
Once elected, it was important for me to have a connection to the residents in Middle Village, and certainly Mascot. I opened up my office in Middle Village. So for the last 3 years, and since being a senator, I've been part of the fabric here in Middle Village, and I'm proud of it. For the first time, the residents of Middle Village, the residents throughout the district, have 24-hour access to my office and its resources. The number that we have in the village office is 24-hour number with a live operator. So when that macro burst hit, and in parts of it were after 5 o'clock and we had no power, people were calling my office getting a live operator, and we were on the job. We worked with Governor Cuomo's office to make sure we had a response team on Juniper Park, near Juniper Park. We made sure the office, again, once the electricity was open for people to charge cell phones and make sure it was available to the people. So to be part of the Middle Village community, I'm thankful. Again, I'm very happy to be in the Middle Village office. Working on the CX issue, making 73rd Place a little safer by cleaning up the debris there, making sure it was paved. Most recently, working with the Department of Health and making sure certain areas of Middle Village were sprayed during the West Nile summer concern. Working with, again, civic leaders like Bob Holden on graffiti issues. It's about being there for the people. It's about, again, making sure that they understand that when I am here, and I have been here, I don't know how many I've missed, but I've been here at these civic meetings. And when I'm not here, I'm thankful Alex is here. It's making sure the residents know that I'm not just a stranger in Albany, but I'm their state senator, and I'm here for them on city, state, and federal issues. And I will continue to be here for them. The other meeting, we had a woman here who's had problems with airplane noise. We're trying to work with the federal elected officials on that. But I hope by now residents know that they've seen me here, and I will continue to be here for them. For our seniors in Middle Village, Rabbi Levy, and of course St. Margaret's, bringing Epic electric there, because it changed in Epic. Scan, elder abuse. Making sure the seniors know that there is a way to call me if they have any concerns on any issue. So I will continue to be there for the people of Middle Village and Mascot.
And Councilman, what would you specifically work on issues that impact those neighborhoods?
Very important to people here, tax relief. People pay a lot of money in property taxes. They feel that they don't get all their services that they're entitled to in return. When I'm up in Albany, I want to make sure that we can cut taxes for middle-class families so that they stay in this community, don't sell their home and move to Long Island or other states or with their relatives because they simply can't afford to make it here anymore. The second thing I'd really like to see, and I'll tell you, when I announced my intention for state senate, when I said I was running, I came to Juniper Park because it is the most unifying, singular, stabilizing force in this community. And my job as an elected official when I get to Albany will be to fight for money to bring back to this community, to enhance and improve and build upon the great park that's already here. I'm a firm believer in it. There are thousands of people that use it, and I want to make it better. So I'm going to make that a priority here in the community.
Okay, so now and hang in there. This is the part where each candidate will be given an opportunity to ask one question to the opposing candidate. You'll have 3 minutes to respond, and there'll be a 1-minute rebuttal. We'll start with Councilman Ulrich asking Senator Addabbo, and then you'll have a chance.
Okay, Joe, you have been in Albany for 3.5 years roughly. You've been in the majority and now you're in the minority. When you were in the majority, when the Democrats controlled the state senate, the Democrats controlled the governor's mansion, the Democrats controlled the state assembly, you voted to raise taxes more than 124 times. I know times were tough. I know you had difficult decisions to make, but how do you look these people in the eye and tell them that it was okay to take money out of their pockets to balance the state budget?
Back in 2009, when I was first elected, I faced the worst fiscal time in our state's history with a new governor who may not compare to be Governor Patterson, because we all knew Governor Spitzer had other plans. But when doing that, I used the experience that I used back in 2002 when I was in the city council facing its worst fiscal times on the heels of 9/11. We cut government to the tune of $6 billion. We cut wasteful spending to the tune of $6 billion, the largest spending cut in our state's history. It was part of that. When we did that, we realized that eventually you can't cut anymore. You can't cut your way out of a $17 billion budget. That's what it was, $17 billion. You can't do it. There's mandatory costs of healthcare, and education, and pensions that doesn't allow you to do that. Mathematically impossible. So we needed to raise $5 billion in revenue. We didn't do a property tax. That hurts the middle class. We didn't do a soda tax. That hurts the middle class. We didn't do a gas tax. That hurts the middle class. We did the millionaire's tax. $250,000 more, not really a millionaire's tax. But when we did it, I looked at the numbers, less than 1% of my district would have been impacted by that. We also did other cuts. We raised fees, the Department of Motor Vehicle, hunter's license, wine, and others, to get out of the hole $5 billion. We are now in the process of restoring that money, which we're better off financially. So the STAR exemption, which nobody in the city lost anyway. You always have a STAR exemption in the city. But for those outside the city who lost it, we're now getting it back. We are now in a better fiscal situation where we can do that. I have the experience of saving the essential state services during the toughest fiscal times ever. And I use that experience to make sure that, again, the quality of life of my people are protected. People first, not politics. When we were in the majority, we had our rough times, no question. But, let's face it, it's good to be a leader during good times, isn't it? When it's plentiful, you can spend the money around. It's hard to be a leader in tough times. That's what I did. As a leader in tough times.
Follow up.
I was in the city council at the same time. We didn't raise taxes once that year, and we had a budget to balance too. And we had a mandate to balance it by law, on time, balanced budget. We did it without tax increases. You didn't even pass a budget on time that year, and the Democrats were running the whole show. It was a fiasco, it was a disaster. So that's where your excuses and your reasons for voting for 124 tax increases is unacceptable.
You know, in 2010, a friend of mine, I suppose, Anthony Como, sat right here and chastised me for the same thing. That was in 2010. People understood why. But there again, Eric, you just don't get the system. You don't know it's apples and oranges. You cannot compare the city council budget to the state budget. You never dealt with a $17 billion deficit. You never did. And there you go again, saying, I could have done it. You never done it. You never had the opportunity of dealing with a $17 billion budget.
That wasn't in 2009.
In 2009, we had a deficit.
Not in 17.
We didn't have a surplus. No.
You're mixing apples.
We didn't. No. 2009, we didn't have a surplus, ladies and gentlemen. We still had a deficit. It wasn't 17 billion. It was 5 billion. Okay? It was 5 billion. It's still in the red. We still didn't raise taxes though. In 2009, we had a deficit, and you never had that kind of deficit. Why don't you get it right? Between the city budget and the state budget, you can't compare. You never had to do that.
Let's just move on, because obviously he sees things differently. I see things for what they are. It's getting late. We'd like to go home and see the Al Smith dinner. I see Monsignor come on the back is giving me the eye, so let's get this moving. Okay.
All right, so Senator, your question for the councilman.
Eric, a lot has been said about you having John Haggerty as part of your campaign. He's been at the courthouse. He's been at the courthouse representing you. He's been at your table collecting checks at fundraisers.
Were you there? Were you at that?
I have heard people tell me.
Oh, you heard? Hearsay.
No, first time they said it. I mean, it's a fact. And you've said it before, you won't throw him under the bus. But John Haggerty is a convicted felon. John Haggerty has absconded money from the mayor's campaign, and he's convicted of it, and he's going to jail. And yet he plays a part in your campaign, Eric. How do you justify, if you're going to say a man of integrity, a man of character, how are you going to justify associating yourself with a convicted felon in your campaign?
That's a very good question, and probably the biggest difference between you and I. I do not throw my friends under the bus. That's number one. Number two, John Haggerty, like anybody else in this room, is entitled to their day in court. He had his day.
He was convicted.
I'm getting to that.
Okay, sorry.
He had his day in court. He was convicted of a crime. He will pay the penalty for that crime. But that has nothing to do with my campaign for state senate when he is not a paid campaign employee. He is not the campaign manager. And he has no official role in my campaign. He is an old friend of mine who was a friend before he did what he did.
I'm not saying he can't be your friend.
You know?
This is associate himself from your campaign. Why you consider your friend? I'm not saying he can't be your friend. I would expect that. But why would he be part of your campaign? John?
I guess, are you speaking into the microphone?
Sorry, Ed. Relax, Ed. What's the blood pressure?
What, is there some problem with the sound?
There's a problem with one person interrupting the other. I would like to hear one person at a time talk. I don't want to bother with arguing.
Okay, well, the debate can be like a spirited argument as long as people are polite. So let's try to, yes, let's wrap this up. Okay, let's, each of you, if you have any final thoughts on that, otherwise we can, we do have time?
I think
All right, I
I
guess.
just stated my position clearly.
Okay, let's move.
He's not a campaign manager. He's not going to get paid in the campaign. He's an old friend of mine. He did something terrible. He had his day in court. He may or may not go to jail. But that has nothing to do with it. I think you're just trying to distract from your failed record.
Okay. Almost time for closing statements where you each have a minute. But I've been handed one last minute question, and I'll give each of you about 1 or 2 minutes to answer this, because it is very late, and I appreciate everybody who's hung in here this long. So you each need to answer this, please. What is the one negative comment that's been said by your opponent that you would like to clear up and address? Start with the councilman.
The one thing that I resented the most was the piece of mail that my wife received 3 days ago. My wife is here. She is 9 months pregnant. And we got a piece of mail delivered to my office from your campaign, from the Democratic State Committee, that had your name on it, that said that I was engaged in a war on women. How do you think that made my wife feel? I would never do that to your wife. I would never do that to your family. I find it absolutely disgraceful that you would send something like that to my house with women with duct tape over their mouths. I think you ought to be ashamed of your campaign for doing that.
Response?
And Eric just said it at the Howard Beach debate. We sometimes have no control of what goes out. We don't. And there are those that the mailers come from Virginia addressed to me and my wife. and they say nasty things about me, and, you know, I'm a criminal, results roll, I'm in their pocket. You know, I think we mentioned it here, no, I'm not going for a pay raise. No, I don't love parents more than children. No, I'm not going to run for Congress. I want to be a state senator. You know, in general, I think people are tired, sick and tired of negative campaigning. It doesn't help. It doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help anyone. It's about talking about issues and gaining the trust of the people, putting people first. So let's keep it positive.
Senator, then what is the one negative comment that's been said by your opponent that you would like to clear up and address?
Oh, where do I start? I think we mentioned it, everybody thinks I'm out for a pay raise. There's no bill that I would not vote for a pay raise. But there are others, and everybody knows it because they got it. The best comment I had was at my recycling event when somebody was coming to shred their paper. And they said, you know what I'm shredding? I'm shredding all the negative mail I got about you. Thank you, I appreciate that.
All right, I think we're going to leave the closing statements, closing remarks. You'll each have 1 minute to give a brief closing statement. I believe the senator's going first on this? Did you just start the opening? Okay, so
I'll be glad to close.
Yeah.
I want to, how much time do I have?
1 minute.
Okay, 1 minute. I'll start now. Okay. I want to thank you, obviously, and thank the senator and all the people who stayed very late. This is a very important election. I know people are concerned about the future of our country and the presidential race, but the local races are just as important. As I talk about, I believe that the main issue in this election is jobs and who is best fit to fight for those jobs and to create those jobs. I have a plan to revitalize our local economies. I have a plan which we spelled out to help small businesses. I have a plan that wants to put people back to work so that we can get our economy moving forward again in the right direction. That is what my campaign is about, and that will be the main focus of my campaign moving forward. I would be honored, truly honored, to fight for the people of Middle Village and Maspeth the same way that I have been fighting for the people of Howard Beach and the Rockaways for the past 3.5 years. I think that I have served them well, and I know that I will make you proud. Thank you very much.
I want to thank you, I want to thank the panel, I want to thank Bob Holt and all the entire Juniper Park Civic for allowing us to be here tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a privilege and an honor to be your voice up in Albany, and to be here, not just an absentee senator, but here in front of you every month as you meet to hear your concerns. I've been there for you. I'm going to continue to try on the railroad issue. Yes, Ed, I am going to continue to try on the railroad issue, still fight for it. I'm thankful to be a part of Middle Village and Glendale and the Middle Village office with the 24-hour live operator service. Again, working on the issues that concern us. And it is about jobs, but I have the experience of creating jobs. Tomorrow, I'm having a job fair. Over 1,000 jobs that will be there. Okay, it's at Addabbo racetrack, Resorts World site, over 1,000 jobs. It's my 6th one. We've matched up thousands of employers with thousands of employees and thousands of new job opportunities. I have a plan for small businesses. Tax credits for small businesses, protecting those on Metropolitan Avenue, River Avenue, Elliott. Tax credits for those who hire veterans, seniors, students, those with disabilities. I have the experience of creating jobs. I have the experience of working in Middle Village. If you stand for good government, you stand for people first, instead of politics, you stand for somebody with a hard work ethic who's going to work for you 24/7, and you stand with me on November 6th. Thank you very much.
Okay.